Do you have some really heavy equipment that you want to pull around with your lawn or garden tractor, but the hitch on the lawn tractor just is not beefy enough to handle the job? That's what I ran into when I started using this leaf vacuum recently. I bought it last year. I even did a video on using it. It's a great machine, but it's very, very heavy. So what I'm going to have to do is beef up the hitch on the garden tractor I use to pull this when I collect leaves. Come along and I'll show you what I got and how I got it put on, and then we'll see how it performs. First thing I want to note is that this is going on one of my Simplicity lawn tractors. I have two of these, 27 horse, 52-inch deck. Really great mowers. I've had Simplicity for many, many years, and now they're not made or sold in the United States anymore. They're just made in Europe and sold there, so I'm a little disappointed. This one's a little bit older. It's still a pretty tough tractor, so I want to get a hitch put on here. This hitch I used last year to pull that big leaf collector, the leaf vac, and it bent it. As I moved around and that big hitch on there would pivot, it would bend this. That isn't going to work for another year, so I needed to go out and get myself a hitch. I bought one on Amazon, got it here, found out it was going to be too wide to fit on this plate. So I have set that aside, and I bought one that looks like, from the dimensions I could see, it will fit. So let's open this up and see what we have here. And the link to this hitch will be in the description of the video. Everything's individually wrapped, powder coated. Get the pieces out here. Hardware bag. And here is the hitch itself. This is supposed to bolt up on here. This will become the new extended hitch, and then these brackets will secure this to the back plate of the mower and strengthen this thing up, and then I can also put a hitch ball or some other device up on the top. I took the liberty to pre-assemble some of the easy stuff on here, and yes, I even read the instructions first. Moment of weakness. The first thing I knew I was going to have to do, because I've run into this before, is this came with a 5/8 carriage bolt that drops down into the slot on this main frame piece here, this main hitch piece, and then you tighten it up. Well, the hitch back here has only a 1/2-inch hole, or a hole capable of a 1/2-inch bolt. 9/16 won't quite fit through it either. No way was I going to drill that out where it's stamped in here. That would weaken this up even more. So I got myself a 1/2-inch bolt, just long enough to get through here. And I did one other thing, and that's that little lip from where the hole is made here in the hitch. It makes a little ridge. I got a slightly larger washer to go over the top of that, so when I put the next flat washer on, it drew tight and sandwiched this frame piece in between the washers. If you don't do that, you're just tightening a washer up against that little piece that's made when they press that hole into the hitch. Just a little point there. Here's an example of an oversized washer that I put up on there before I put the 1/2-inch washer on. So I put that in place, and of course I also took the liberty to not completely tighten on, but attach fairly snugly this piece right here that the brace is attached to. You need that to give it strength. And you can adjust this in and out until these contact that back plate. I needed that on to make that adjustment to find out where to drill the holes to attach these side braces. Those did not line up at all because, as I had mentioned earlier, this hitch had been twisted. With the movement of that leaf vac on the terrain that I've got here, that hitch shifted and it pulled this over. After I snugged this on here, I put a rod through these two holes and slid a pipe down over the end to get some leverage. And I simply pulled this over until this hitch piece was flat and this was lined up perpendicular to the floor. And now I've got a straight surface where this stuff will mount evenly on the back plate. So that's going to be my next step now. With this thing straightened out, is tap this back into place. I've got to loosen this just a little bit to do that. And it's a little awkward not having a carriage bolt in here for that slot, but I do have a thin 3/4 wrench that I can get inside of here to hold that top of that bolt in place while I adjust. So now I'm going to let that float a little bit till I get these aligned where I want them. And I have them pretty evenly spaced on each side, up here flush, with this slid back where it needs to be. So the next thing is going to be to get a punch, spring punch, punch a center hole, and get a couple of holes drilled. Now this is a 5/16 bolt that they provide to bolt this on here. I am going to drill that hole just a little bit bigger than that so I have free movement of that bolt. And I check back here, and I'm not going to run into anything with the drill. Last thing you'd want to do is run into the transmission or some kind of a feed line, and that is clear. But I'm still going to only go in just so far. I don't want to get the drill bit in too far. You never know. Sometimes you might miss something and do some real damage. So let's get these marked. I snugged these brace arms on just lightly with an open end wrench. I could still move them, but they stay fairly well in place. That way I could move this back and get these flat tight against this back plate. And I gave this a little snug to hold it in place. And then I took the tape measure and I checked centers and distances from the side all the way across, and we are lined up where we should be in the center. With this stuff snug, I know that this is where it needs to be. So the next step is to mark a hole to do the drilling for these 5/16 bolts. I had to add a couple of my own washers because I used up all of their washers on this part. They didn't provide enough flat washers to have one on each side, and I like to do that. And I didn't use all of their nylock nuts because I just used my own lock washers and standard nuts on here. It just makes it easier. But I thought on the back side I would just go with the nylocks and I don't have to bother with fumbling to try to get a regular lock washer on there. So with that, we're going to punch the hole. If you don't have one of these, I can't tell you where to get it because I inherited this from an uncle, my dad, father-in-law. I don't remember anymore. I've had this thing for over 40 years, probably longer than that. Spring-loaded punch makes life a lot easier. You get lined up in here, you look around so you're dead center in the hole, and you press. You have your pilot mark for your drill. Do the same thing on this side. Look around, make sure it's centered, and we have a pilot mark. Much more accurate. I'm going to give each one another little whack. Now I can go ahead and drill my holes. I just need to loosen these a little bit to get them out of the way to do the drilling. I don't want to drill and damage the paint on these arms here. I'm set up here now. I have an 11/32 drill bit. It's just a little bit over the 5/16 that I need for these bolts. I want to do that so I've got just a little bit of adjustment play in there. And to make sure I had the right size drill bit, if you don't have one of these, consider getting one. They're very handy. It's a drill size gauge, and you can very quickly identify drill bits, especially if you've got a whole box full of them, or you don't have them stuck in any kind of a holder, and you got to first eyeball and say, that's roughly what I need, and then you double check it with this to be sure, so you've got the right size. So I did that. I've got what should be a sharp drill bit in here. We'll find out in a second. I'm going to put my gloves on. I've got a drill bit sharpener, but I'm not always religious about resharpening drill bits when I'm done. I pulled this out of the box. Should be ready to go. I've got the pilot started here. I'm going to start very slowly just to make sure I'm staying on center, which I am. Make sure I'm on high speed here to get through. And I made it just before the battery ran out. So I'll go switch that quick and get the other hole. That's swapped out. Got the battery up on the charger. This is my shed drill, and I haven't used it for a while. Took this out of the case. Seems to have a charge. Hope it's enough to get through this. Again, get lined up on that center punch hole. Drill a little bit to make sure we get started. This could use a sharpening, but it's getting through. It's throwing chips. Get a better angle here. Started to go, but we made it. All right. I'm going to just hit those with the round file to get the rough edges off. Get a little paint on there, and we should be good. I'm going to put a little paint on there just to cover that bare metal. Don't have to be too fussy about appearance right here. Most of the time there's so much dust on the back of this you can't see it anyway. I'm going to let that dry a little bit and we will bolt this thing together. Today is September 16th in Wisconsin, and it is about 85 degrees. We are having an unusual warm spell and no rain. The paint's not completely dry, but it's dry enough to go ahead and get this wrapped up. I want to get these bolts in here. This paint job wasn't done for appearance, it was done for protection, and we're in pretty good shape. So, things shifted on me a little bit, but that will all come out in the wash. Drop this first bolt in here. Get this one started. Come up on the back side with the flat washer and the nylock nut. Nylock nuts are okay for things like this. I'm not a big fan of them, but in this case I think it's going to work out. Got to get myself at an angle where I can get at this thing. Got that one started in. See how much else I can get in my way. Over here. Get this one started. Make sure I got it turned the right way. That'd be a good idea. Typically, when you tighten a nut onto a bolt, you want to get the socket on the nut, but I don't have enough swing back there, so what I've got is a nice long 1/2-inch box wrench, and I'm going to tighten this from the other side, but it'll probably be good enough. I'm going to come back later with a 1/2-inch ratchet and really get these snug. This is just to get things anchored down and in place. I'm going to go ahead and tighten the rest of these. These I can get on with a deep well from the other side, get them good and snug, get the side bolt snug, and get this bottom bolt snugged in. And we will have a completed hitch. Another feature I want to talk about on this is this handy little piece right here. You can have a height extension on this hitch. The variable height hitch extension that I have this 1 7/8" ball mounted on is very easy to move with this setup. Just pull this big pin and you can move it up and down, lock it in place, lock your pin back in, or move it back down. Very convenient. Pretty versatile little hitch. I'll get this snugged in. I'll be ready to start pulling that leaf vac around. If you enjoyed today's video, please click like and consider subscribing so you will be notified when I make more new videos of this type. And construction on the house, I've got a big car renovation project coming up. Car restoration, an old Volkswagen that I've got, one of two that I need to restore. So if you want to make sure you see all of that, please subscribe. Thank you for watching today. Enjoy your projects and take care.